Good morning. Welcome back to Stone Age Success. I'm Andy, and coming to you today from the park. It's a very nice day out there. You know, the reason why you're not where you want to be isn't because of laziness. It's not because you're not talented. It's something even more dangerous, and it's complacency. And it's quietly just destroying our lives. Not just you, me as well. It used to be that we were hungry, you know? When you're young, you can feel it. You were coming up, you were just hungry. You had goals, you felt urgency, like there was something you had to get to. Now, you're probably a lot more comfortable, right? The bills are paid, everything's okay, life is fine. Might not be exactly where you want to be, but it's okay. And this is where you become flat, right? We become stagnant. We start to have a little bit of regret that maybe we're not as far as we want to be or that we should be. And that is right where I was, have been several times in my life in different areas of your life at any one time. It's not your whole life that's like that. You might be achieving in one area of your life and be totally complacent in another area. But ultimately they just erode each other because you search for one to solve the other. And, you know, one of my own stories was I got really good job in education. I was working with top athletes. I had a job where pretty much I had to kill somebody to get fired. I had a nice house. I had a fishing boat. I had a brand new vehicle. I could travel anywhere we wanted to go. But it was like something was missing. You know, it was like... It's hard to describe. It is for you as well. I know you've tried many times. It's just a feeling inside of you, right? And that's why it's so dangerous, is because it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels okay. We should never settle for okay. You know, the definition of complacency is a feeling of self-satisfaction, a contentment with a situation. But that also most often leads to unawareness of, you know, potential dangers, lack of awareness of problems, or your need to improve. You know, it can just become like you just become so still and it feels okay, but it's not okay. We know that inside our brains for sure. And one of the things that stops us is, you know, we're resistant to discomfort and pain. But achievement requires tension, and growth requires a bit of discomfort. You need to come out of your comfort zone. We hear that all the time. And success requires urgency. And we can remember this when we were young. We used to have urgency. We had to get somewhere, right? We had to get to the top, climb the ladder. And that wasn't a bad thing. It kept, you know, I can remember one time in a movie, I can't even remember what it's called. It was with Arnold Schwarzenegger back when he was making a movie about bodybuilding. And one of the lines that stuck with me was he'd won, you know, he was at the top of his game. And he said, you always have to stay hungry. And it took me many years before I was actually able to apply some of that to my own life. That, yeah, it is hungry, you know, because complacency just destroys achievement because you're no longer hungry. You're satisfied, you know, and it's hard to stay on top. You can look at teams that, you know, achieve greatness or businesses that are at the top of the market and then they fail. And it's because they become complacent. They stop innovating. They stop change. They stop trying to advance themselves. It's hard. I can tell you as a sport coach, it's hard to stay on top, right? But that's what you have to do. And that requires continuous striving to get ahead, innovation, change. Second thing it does, complacency erodes self-worth. You know what you're capable of, right? And when you're not doing that, you start to feel it internally. I know lots of guys, you know, my age, younger than me, 30 plus. You know, we look around, everybody makes the joke about dad bods and, you know, you're maybe scrolling through YouTube or Facebook or whatever, and you're looking going, what happened to me? You know, why aren't I looking like that or whatever? And we start to feel, you stop respecting yourself a little bit. You know, it's like you let yourself go a bit. You're not as high up in promotion as you thought you'd be. you kind of just let yourself down. So you lose a little self-respect and you start to feel like you've lost your edge, right? The thing that made you who you are, you just became a little dull. Not dull like as in personality, but just like you're just not sharp anymore. And you start to avoid mirrors, both literally and metaphorically. You don't want to see that reflection of yourself that says you're not where you want to be now. And, for myself, a couple of years ago, I've put on some weight. I'd finished cruising. We'd moved ashore so our daughter could go to high school. And life was pretty easy. There was a lot more fast food around. There was grocery stores handy. I didn't have to do any boat work, no rope pulling, no jug carrying, no rowing, no swimming. And so I added a bunch of weight. And I was honestly trying to cover up with clothes and avoid the mirror because I wasn't where I was a year or two ago, and I'm 61. And this happened several times, when different parts of my sporting career, when I stopped doing marathons before I picked up triathlons, you went through a phase where you fell off a little bit, and you had to almost kick yourself in the rear end to get yourself going again. Because self-worth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from earned progress, okay? So self-worth is always about what am I achieving next? It's got nothing to do with where I am now. It also, complacency shrinks your identity. You stop seeing yourself as disciplined, as a guy, as dangerous, the protector of my family, the hunter, right? It stops you from feeling like you're capable of growth. Okay, here I am, this is all that I'm gonna be now. Well, screw that, right? Why would any of us settle for that? And it's something that we need to reach inside ourselves to break free of, because soon our identity, we start to feel average. I felt like this a few times, and that's when it really scared me, is I started to feel like the rest of the sheep. I'm not a sheep, right? Neither are you. But we let ourselves feel like that. We started to feel stable, identified as stable and average and just a dad, I'm just a white collar worker. As soon as you settle, that is what your identity becomes. Identity equals destiny. Whatever you see yourself as is what you're going to be. We've all heard this. What you think is what you are. Well, that's exactly what this is. It is really just us becoming the thing that we don't want to be. And so we have to remember that we need to be able to push ourselves to go beyond, and really, really, really jack it up. Now, if this has hit you, right? If this is hitting you, be sure to hit subscribe and like, because, you want to hear more of this message that maybe it's going to wake you up. I've always had a few people in my lives, one, my coach, and, my wife is very honest with me, and my friends, when I'm starting to not be on the cutting edge, they sometimes give me a shake or a slap in the head because it's not the person I'm meant to be, right? So if you're refusing to live like this, average, make sure you hit the link, grab my free Stone Age Success Quick Start program. It's what I use to jump out of my doldrums all the time. So grab down there, grab it. Remember, if you have the Quick Start program, you can work through the workbook with my video series on the Quick Start program. And of course, the people with the Quick Start are the only ones that are going to be invited to apply to do my live full Stone Age to Success program, which I'll be running in a live beta version in the near future here. But only the people with the Quick Start program will be allowed to in that. Please write in the comments where you are feeling complacent now, and be honest. Don't fool yourself anymore, because that's what complacency is. It's fooling ourselves, lying to ourselves. And I know all of you felt that way, just like I felt that way before, right? And it's okay that it's happened, but it's not okay to stay that way. We know this. We got to fight our way out. We got to become the men and women that we want to be, that we should be all the time. So comment down below. Again, this is Andy from Stone Age Success. I'll see you next time.